Hello, everybody. This is a Lamley showcase. One of my first big showcases of 2025. I have been meaning to do this for a while, and I've been trying to figure out the right angle to do it, meaning what direction to take when we're talking about 1/64 scale big rigs. I think it's time. I actually thought about maybe I would just do a review of 2024 and incorporate that into the Lamley Awards, but I decided against that. I guess we could kind of look forward to 2025. I think we're going to see more big rigs in 2025, but we don't know exactly what's coming out. So I thought instead of that, let's just sit right in the middle and just talk about some of the brands that are doing 1/64 scale big rigs. I'm definitely not covering all, but we're just going to talk about them. I like doing these long form showcases, especially over the weekend. I hope you like them too. I want to do more of these where we just kind of dig into different topics in 1/64. And I thought this would be a great place to start because these videos that I do when I do shorts showcasing these, they get a lot of views, they get a lot of comments, and I hear a lot of things from you about kind of, should I collect 1/64 big rigs or not? They're more expensive, obviously. But there's a gateway drug, and it's right in front of you. It is the Elite 6.4. Let's see if I can find the official name here on the box. There it is. The Freightliner Cascadia. This is a 1/64 scale done by Hot Wheels, of course. There was talk of this thing. There was a lot of attention given to it when it first came out or when it was first announced. Then it hit Mattel Creations and instantly sold out. Some people said, well, there was a sale involved. I get that. It was normally priced at $50, but you could get it for $37. Still, though, if people didn't want it, they wouldn't have bought it. So it went, and it went very, very fast. And I think the feedback from this truck that Hot Wheels did has been super positive. By the way, speaking of Hot Wheels, we're going to be kind of staying away from like car culture team transport trucks. There's some really cool historic stuff that I might dig into later, like, of course, Matchbox Convoy, which are fantastic old school trucks. You could get technical on some of the other big rigs that, Hot Wheels has done in premium Kenworths and in basic way back when. And maybe that's a topic, but we're going to talk more about the realistic to scale or somewhat to scale 1/64, if that makes sense. And you'll see where we're going to go on this. This is going to go in a million different directions. But let's talk about the gateway drug. Let's talk about this Freightliner Cascadia. I think it was really, really well done. And this is what you get used to. I would show all these boxes, but this is the other thing about doing showcases like this. I guess I could have done it this way. They kind of get, they're big, and doing videos is kind of hard. So let's just if you didn't buy this, you can kind of see what the packaging is like here. A lot of tissue paper, a lot of protective packaging. This is a very, very cool truck. And I'll try and do some comparing and contrasting as we go. I'll move this here. There's a little piece here. We can move that away. And here it is. We'll start, obviously, most of these trucks come with trailers and cabs, right? So I think a lot of people, when they got this, realized, whoa, this is super, super nice. It's one of the, and I don't mean this negatively, it's one of the lesser detailed trucks you'll see compared to others, but I only mean that in terms of like pieces. This one actually kind of holds its own as a Hot Wheels, right? It's a little more durable. There's fewer moving parts and like little details, like there's no wiring or things like that is great for displaying, but may not be as much for like moving around and playing and stuff. Obviously, there's details in the bottom here in the chassis that are very realistic. The wheels roll beautifully. It is a Hot Wheels, it has to roll well. And of course they give their axles the proper treatment, detailed wise. Also this detail, the matte black with the Ghost Hot Wheels logo, is pretty cool. I assume some would say, oh, I want more realistic, but it is very realistic. I mean, you can just display it this way and not even see it. You just have to look close. Then of course there's the trailer. No moving parts other than the ramp in the back. And so you have to kind of move things around. Some of these trucks, as you'll see, are more detailed and have more moving parts. And it's kind of what you pay for. But I think this, in terms of a Hot Wheels realistic to scale truck, is just about perfect. you know, there's kind of a, oh, and I actually like how they did this. They did a kind of a rubber piece here, and instead of snapping in, you can just kind of like insert it in, and it sits kind of nice. There's no, either it's too weak or too strong. It kind of sits perfectly, and this rolls really well. So if you're going to put cars on it, I have one complaint. You want to hear my one complaint on this one? Well, I'll show you. So, well, let me do a little bit higher chassis here for this one. So you put a car there, and you put, let's say, a car here. You're going to have the middle car here, but what they didn't put was some sort of, and I can just point it right here. You know, I know maybe realistically this would be chained in or something like that, but they didn't put a little notch on this section, so the car essentially kind of just has to settle in. If they would have just put a little notch like right here, and I almost wish they did, because I just wish the car, you don't have it as balanced. Still looks great, and maybe it wouldn't be realistic to have a notch there, but I just feel like putting the car, like sitting it right there, would be kind of perfect. Of course, then you put the ramp down, and I think you can probably get 2 cars in here. So I brought out premium, so you can put one here. Again, another little lip right there, so the car could kind of nestle in. It's hard to see here, and I don't want to pick it up for fear of dropping something. But the car kind of just rolls in and kind of sits against that. And then right here, that car sits really nicely. So it's a small complaint, but you know, a notch here and a notch here. And I think the cars then just did kind of, because I think a lot of us will use this for display. That's all. And maybe they'll do that. I would almost say it's worth for Hot Wheels to go back and just put notches in there. Of course, you could, but that's my only complaint. That way, the cars don't roll around. I'd like them to stay put, right, as we move these around. So, just kind of something. But that is. It got such a good response. It deserves the good response it got, this Hot Wheels. I know that they're working on a second truck for Elite, so I guess a new cab. I don't know if they'll get a new trailer. But I love that. And Hot Wheels does this. I made the argument in the Lamley Awards that the Hot Wheels hype around Rexy and Roxy probably benefited the Mini GT Rexy, just because people saw, you know, the excitement around the Hot Wheels, and then went to other brands and said, well, I like this. What about, is there a premium replica? And they found the Mini GT and bought that up, and it ended up being the model of the year. I think in this case, too, this truck is fantastic. And if you just keep this truck and stay with this truck, you're in really good shape, and you could just collect these as they come out in the Elite 64 line from Hot Wheels. But it might make you go, well, I wonder what else is out there, and do I have some answers for you? All right, we can go Mini GT, we can go Tomica Limited Vintage, and we can have a couple of other brands that I'm going to cover here. Let's start actually with Tomica Limited Vintage, because I could tell you what I like. I could tell you this is the brand you need to collect, and put a preference. I'm not gonna do that, only because there's well, how do I put this? I'll give you some favorable things about it, but if I had to pick a godfather of the big rigs and the 1/64 scale big rigs, I personally would say Tomica Limited Vintage. Now, there's First Gear, more on that brand in a little bit. First Gear is pretty awesome. There's some other brands that do these, but I have collected Tomica Limited Vintage for a long time, and I've really enjoyed their trucks. And I have a few here, all released in the last year, that I wanted to show you. They've done some classic cabs. This is a more modern cab, the Hino Profia tractor with a 40-foot container trailer. I'll show you the box. I like this one. They've released a couple of these this year. You have to add mirrors on some of these, but you can see there's these pieces here. But I like this one because it had the Ocean Network Express trailer, which we've all seen. I mean, if you've driven around in different parts of the world, you will have seen this one. So let's open it up quickly. Maybe we'll do it here so you can get a sense of this. I mean, I show Tomica Limited Vintage a lot, and I do show the trucks as we get them, and I do shorts on these. In fact, the most popular short I've ever filmed on YouTube, 45 million views, is one of these. It's not I don't think it's the Ocean Network Express truck, but it's the same cab. So this is what these look like. Tomica Limited Vintage did some 5-car trailer haulers, and more of those might be coming out in a little bit. And if they do, I'll definitely showcase them, and maybe I'll do another long form video on these in the future. So this is actually the lighter piece. This is much, much heavier. There's a reason for that. So here it is, the cab and the trailer. This is how they come. So one thing you get from Tomica Limited Vintage is an insane amount of realism, and the best material suited for that particular purpose. So I'll move the camera down just a little bit. We'll start with the cab here. I'll show it to you. It's metal cab. There's plastic pieces here because I think it just makes it for a more exact ratio and scale. So you get proper axles on both sides. You get a spare tire that's actually rubber. I've shown that with Tomica Limited Vintage. And then, of course, a lot of details on the chassis. Not as heavy as the Hot Wheels, but you get a really nice detailed interior. I don't know if I showed that on the Hot Wheels. Maybe we can do that later. You do get some of these details as well. Then in the trailer, same thing. This is actually, well, I think some of it might be metal, some of it might be plastic. I think the core might be metal, but then there's a lot of plastic detailing on the same thing. Axles, totally detailed. It's very nicely, very high quality. This feels plastic, this feels metal. I could be wrong. Sometimes it is hard to tell. But you get the trailer here. And then, of course, you need the cab for it. So that's what this is. And check this thing out. How pretty this is. And the cool thing, and this is an ongoing theme, this is heavy and it is all metal. So I'll show you the front. You can see there's this is pure Tomica Limited Vintage. Everything is detailed. Top, sides, of course there's the Ocean Network Express. Even the bottom, this might be plastic. No, I think that's metal too. Pull that part out. Even the inside is beautifully detailed inside. No freight, of course, but metal, and then it just, let's see how, make sure we get it. It just sits, oops, right on top. Nestles in, they have a little insert. I didn't even see where they were, but then you get this. Now it's bumping around because I've got this ridged table, but a little squeaky. But it still is an absolute beautiful 1/64 scale truck. Triple axle. You've got the single axle here. But I mean, look at these. And now they start coming together and you actually have pretty, I mean, comparatively, two very, very nice trucks, right? That actually go well together. They don't, like the Hot Wheels doesn't seem out of place with the Tomica Limited Vintage. Now, digging into this brand a little bit more, there's a lot of directions you go. I have shown these haulers before. This is the Isuzu Elf Safety Loader Big Wide. We've seen this cab used before. This is an Advan livery. I showed this in the Lamley Awards. This one has pieces you can add too. These single haulers that they've done, well, these aren't single, right? These are double haulers. But you can see this is pretty fantastic. In fact, I didn't bring any Tomica Limited Vintage. I probably should have. Well, of course I can. I mean, I can always edit, right? Here's the hauler. I got two Skylines. I've got, of course, the Advan Skyline that Tomica Limited Vintage did. And we can go ahead, why don't we just put that on top? So this one has the moving parts. This is, by the way, same thing. Spare tire, rubber spare tire, ton of details. You got moving parts. You got this little exhaust here. Obviously the moving parts here. So Skyline can move up here and be adjusted up to the top. And then of course here, I'll put it right here, And then our other Skyline finds, you know, and there's notches there. Fold this over, and there is your hauler. Just like that. Looks fantastic. Now, I don't think you would call this a big rig, but I just want to give you a sense of what Tomica Limited Vintage does. And obviously, as I have always talked about with Tomica Limited Vintage, everything is to scale. So if this one Ocean Network Express, one hauler, were parked next to this Advan hauler, this Isuzu Elf, with those cars on it, this would be completely to scale. And so Tomica Limited Vintage realistic, their realistic cars are fantastic, but if you just wanted to collect their trucks, you're actually in pretty good shape. Another element, and this is actually a long-term video that I want to do, a long-form video that I want to do someday, is their buses. This one came out this last year, and they've done a ton of city and transport buses over the years. I've got quite a few of them, not all of them, but I want to give you a sense of this as well. And again, it's not a big rig, it's not a hauler, but same thing. Spare tires, details on the top, on the bottom, on the chassis, and then tons of details. This is obviously a transport van, but you can see a ton of details on the inside. Driver, and then all of these seats. And these are just, you know, again, to scale, it's pretty phenomenal to see what Tomica Limited Vintage could do. Now, I've said this, and I just, as a recommendation, I have quite a few buses, and I think I should showcase more. I should do a long-term showcase. I don't know who would collect just Tomica Limited Vintage buses unless it was a very avid bus collector. But I do think, like, if you're a 1/64 scale collector, you kind of should go pick one or two and put them in your collection, because they just are cool. They display well. They look really cool. I just think that that's another element. Lastly, in this kind of showcase of Tomica Limited Vintage, well, not lastly, this is another one I pulled out again to scale. If there's your Isuzu Elf once again, so it's the same cab as the Advan, but you'll see this. And then we're going to go kind of insane for a second. You get this container truck as well too. Again, I wouldn't call this a big rig. This is one of those, like, these are those trucks that drive too fast on the highway. You know, that I always feel like they're either on my tail or they're cutting in front of me. I know I'm being a little bit too generalized there, but these container trucks are really cool too. And I just, the driver has a place to go. They need to be somewhere faster than I do probably, so I should just give them a break. But yeah, another super detailed. You can see that the cab matches with the Advan. So another to scale with the big rig set that I think is just really neat too. So this is really kind of just for your information. Look what Tomica Limited Vintage does. But if there's anything that's kind of a legendary thing, and they released one recently this year, a third version of this truck. I don't know if you would call this, I guess you would call it a big rig, because the cab, the Hino TC343 type, this is the ladder fire engine. This is the third of these that they've done. The first two were so expensive. People were paying $300 to $400 a pop. So you can actually get one cheaper now, because it's essentially the same thing, but they did a slightly different deco. But if you want to see detail, and this is what I said, this is why I say, like, I look at Tomica Limited Vintage as kind of the godfather of these big rigs. This is a whole nother level. And I want to show you this. If you haven't seen this before, you're in for a treat. And again, it may not be everybody's cup of tea. Here's some pieces you can add. I'm not going to do that. Never do. Here's the container. This one even comes with figures, but we're just going to worry about the truck itself. I have the other ones, but they're essentially the same thing. Here's the truck. Moving ladder. We'll get to that in a second. First off, let me just show you. This is a classic. So this is more of a limited vintage. This isn't, is this Neo or not? Yeah, it does say Neo. I don't know what year this cab would have done. Might be in the 70s, maybe 80s, but this is a Hino cab. So it's a more vintage retro cab, But then you start getting into all of these details. Is this a more delicate piece than some of the others? Absolutely. Is it more delicate than the Big Hauler, the Big Ocean Express? Of course it is. But look at this. You get rubber hoses. You get all of these little knobs that are their own separate pieces. You get, well, you get a really detailed chassis. You get this piece, which I think screws if you worked on it. You get this moving part to brace the truck when it's in action, right? Look at the rear portion of this, the tail lights. Oh, we're not done. Another rubber hose on the other side. More knobs. Let me show you the interior. I don't know if we can get in there, and there you go. Look at that in the inside. To haul everybody, and then check this out. Ladder. It pivots however it needs to. Then you've got, I can pull this up again, you've got like the ladder to the ladder. You've got the control section. And then the ladder itself is that not the coolest? I'm not a big fire truck collector or fire vehicle collector. I do like them when they do come out, especially like brands like Matchbox and things like that, but this thing is such an incredible piece of die cast. Look, there's even on the bottom here, there's little pieces. This is just an incredible example of detailed die cast that, I mean, I'd consider if I had to keep one piece, this might be the piece I'd keep just because it's just an amazing, amazing little feet. Look at the doors on the back. I mean, everything about this. And like all Tomica Limited Vintage, done totally to scale. And high quality, like rolls wonderfully. So that, okay, we're this far in. We've done Hot Wheels and we've done Tomica Limited Vintage, and we still have some brands to do. So let me clean this up a little bit and let's get to Mini GT. All right, I have 3 rigs here from Mini GT, 1/64 scale as well, wonderfully in scale. And like I said, I don't know if I'm recommending one over the other. I want to show you some of the benefits and some of the things, some of the highlights of all these different brands. But I would say that Mini GT, because there's so many people, at least among the collectors that I'm with and a lot of you viewers and people that I follow, really, I mean, Mini GT has kind of taken over, right? There's so much excitement about Mini GT, the direction they take, the realistic cars they do, the race cars they do. So I would recommend for a lot of you collectors, because you already have a lot of Mini GT, if you're not collecting some of these rigs, this might be a great place to start, is the Mini GT big rigs, because they are fantastic. I have 3 here. We'll try and go as quickly as we can through them, or else this video is going to be 9 hours long. This is the Western Star 49X. They haven't done a ton of cabs. I think that it's basically been the Mercedes Actros and the Western Star. I don't know if there's been any others. That offhand, I can't remember. So 2 pieces here. First one is, of course, the cab. I will show you this cab here. Here, I'm going to put this down here to show you the details. You get a ton of details, like, once again. Yeah, I mean, to the eye, this is exactly like Tomica Limited Vintage. There are, I mean, maybe there is a, I mean, these are going to be cheaper than the Tomica Limited Vintage. They're still expensive. More plastic. Yeah, you know, I don't even know if I want to compare, like, you know, cheaper or not, because these are still very, very well made. One element of the Mini GT is that the wheels do turn. Not a ton, but a little bit. And that, for display, it actually looks really cool that way. Proper axles, rolls very well. I would say they're just slightly under in terms of quality, but again, I don't mean that as a negative, because these are not poor quality at all. These are actually quite realistic. You just get a lot of details. You get like Mini GT, I would say, like some of the Mini GT cars, like the side mirrors and stuff, they're durable but somewhat fragile. I would say that is the same here. You know, you don't want to roll them down a track. That's the truck or the cab. Let me show you the trailer. And there's one thing that I love about Mini GT that I'm going to offer as a very, very cool highlight. So you get, once again, just like the Tomica Limited Vintage, I'll just show you this. The cab here, or not the cab, the container is all metal and very detailed. So same thing, just like the Mini GT, you get details on top, you get details on the front side here. This is looks like a refrigerated container, right? Or some sort of climate control, right? Look at the interior here. Metal doors, another detailed interior. I love that clank. I love that clank. And then, of course, you got to have the chassis. And here you go. Get that out here. This might be even higher quality, the chassis, than the Mini GT. You're getting metal for sure. I'm sorry, than the Tomica Limited Vintage. Triple axle. You get details here. You get a lot of good quality metal. You do get some plastic trim, which I don't mind plastic trim because it's to scale, it's a little more exact, right? Put this down, and then of course, just like, well, let's go ahead and add that to the truck. Hot Wheels sure figured out how to do these trailers with that kind of rubber piece, by the way. I think that's the winner in that department of how to put these trailers on. And then this just, there you go, slips on. Rolls beautifully. That cab is just so cool. Now, let me just show you one of my favorite things about Mini GT. Did you know you can buy the truck, and they've got some other container trucks with, I mean, this is obviously evergreen, like the Ocean Network Express branded container, which is cool. To get the Tomica Limited Vintage, you got to buy the truck to get the one container. For Mini GT, yes, this is the container that comes with that particular Western Star, but did you know that you can just buy containers? I haven't even opened this one yet, and I have two of them. Got these from M&J Toys, and so you can probably buy these at your local hobby dealer if they're not sold out. I got this a while ago, but I want to open this up because this is another thing I love. I have older container trucks that Mini GT has done, Actros ones. There's a different Maersk trailer, and I think this is, I don't think they've even done a truck with the Hapag Lloyd trailer, but here, let me just open this one up. I'll just show you. Full die-cast construction, no plastic parts, detailed decorated interior and exterior. These are really cool. Now you could just obviously do a container collection, which actually could kind of be cool. Let's move that over here. Move this down. You see why I say Mini GT might be a really good brand to collect, just to start. Here you go. Total metal container. This one obviously not climate controlled. Probably one you would see on a ship, on a train, obviously on a truck. Look at the details here. Look at the floor color, the walls, everything super detailed. Just on its own, it's a beautiful piece, to be honest. Kind of funny to say that about a container, but it is. And of course, if my hand were a big mover, there you go. Now, the Western Star is hauling a Maersk trailer. I don't know if these don't stack perfectly on top of each other because the notches have to be placed for, I guess you could put a notch on top like this so you could stack them, but Mini GT didn't do that, I think, for realism's sake. This is what it would look like on the reel. So these don't stack like they would on, say, a ship or a train. But they do work on these trailers. So there's the Maersk. I hope I'm saying that. Is it Maersk? And then, of course, we have the Hapag Lloyd. Some of the older trailers that Mini GT have done, I think, are somewhat collectible now because they didn't do too many of them. So if I can get this open, do it from this side. There we go. I think that, like I said, there was a truck. There was a, and if you want me to do a Mini GT feature, I can. There was an Actros, and then they did, I think, a green evergreen trailer, green with the white lettering, and there was one other one. Oh, a plain white trailer, just a plain white. And I have those in my collection, but I don't have them out here. But these branded, did I say trailer? I meant containers. These branded containers are just so cool. It's these little things, right? Is it just these little things that just create so much joy about collecting this stuff? Here it is. Detailed, 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 detailed. Let's open it up. Look at that. Different color interior. Clank, clank. There you go. Now you have a different truck. Mix and match. How fun is that? How fun is that? Okay, that's just, this video is so long. That's just one element of the Mini GT that is super exciting. So let's move that Western Star box over here. You guys should see the mess I'm making here. And we'll put the trailers over here. I'm just gonna kind of move this, and then let's talk about this UPS truck. Now, if you're looking and you're seeing, you might say to yourself, hey, can we do what we think we can do? The answer is, of course, yes. Let's open it up. UPS, this was released this year. They released some figures with it. I don't have it. I've already done enough here. Let's go ahead and I'll show you what this looks like. There's your cab. Here's your trailer and container. All right, I'll show you the Actros. This Actros cab has been done before. It's got metal pieces throughout. It's got detailing in the side mirrors. Let me see if I can show you the interior. There you go, through the window. It's a little hard. But the detailing is there. Front grille is fantastic. This one obviously has the adjustable wheels as well that turn. This one turns better than the Western Star. Move that. And here we go. Here's your UPS container. Of course, it's all metal. Front, side, back. There's the inside. Put that right here, and we'll pull out what you've already seen. It's the same thing. I think this is the exact same trailer, right? It's the exact same chassis. You can put that on the Actros. Well, of course it is, because it's going to fit the container. There we go. Turn the wheel here. You can see that works. And then, of course, the UPS container. There you go. Now you have a UPS truck to go together with your Western Star. And do they switch out? Of course they do. So while you may not see this realistically on the road unless someone was borrowing something, there you go. You can switch those around as well. You loving it? Are you? Because I think this is fantastic. All right. Let's move. Let's get appropriate again. Let's get Let's get these back where they need to go. UPS, yeah, the figures are really cool too because it's a loading and unloading group of figurines that that were done with the that you can buy as a set. But let's talk Advan now. Same cab, different trailer. And I don't know if this is showcase. I mean, I don't know if we've covered all of the Mini GT trailers. I think in this, well, they've done a 5 or 6 car hauler as well. But I don't have that. I don't know if I have it at all. I used to. I don't know if I have it anymore. But here, we're back to Advan. So here's the same cab as the UPS. All the details are the same, as you can see. Obviously an Advan livery, which is fantastic. This is going to fall more in line with just the utility element of, or I'm sorry, the racing element of Mini GT versus like the utility of Mini GT. You know, they do the UPS, but they also do Advan. Well, I think I got one. Yeah. We'll find use for this here in a second. But obviously this is themed with the rest of Mini GT's line, right? They do a ton of racing cars, and here you get a full metal. This is so cool. A full metal racing car transport trailer. All metal. Look at the detailing. It's just insane. I think this will adjust. Yes, it will. We don't need to do that right now. Let me move this. Okay, so let me just go ahead right now. Just got to put this together. Okay, so wheels do turn again once again. You can see that. All right, but we're going to go this direction because, and let's make sure the camera, because check this out. All right. You've got some delicate elements here, like this string, which obviously serves as part of the function here. And then this piece goes out. And then let's get out our, we might borrow the Tomica Limited Vintage Advan Skyline, and let's get this Liberty Walk Advan. All right, so what happens? We got to transport. Let me just show you. I guess I'll just take this off the truck for a second. Let me just show you what's going on inside. You've got 2 layers here, right? 2 levels. You can actually, I don't know if I have, yeah, I have styrofoam in there, so I'm going to be a little careful, but you can actually pull this portion out. I don't want to get the styrofoam stuck there, but I want to keep it in there to protect it. But see, you can pull this out. I'll just guess I can leave it like that. But let's push this back in and check this out. Car loads up, and you can, they've actually made this function to where it can elevate to this level, and the car can go inside and then very carefully lower it again to ground level. Next car, just lift it just slightly, and that one can go inside. Check that out. Fold up, fold up. Just make sure it's all closed. And you can haul your racing team. Are you not smiling? Are you not smiling? Do you not see why I think Mini GT is a great place to start? Okay. I've shown you the merits of Mini GT. I've shown you the merits of Tomica Limited Vintage. I obviously have introduced, or shown you, many of you have it, the Elite 6.4 Hot Wheels, which I'm excited about. I did mention that one of the great brands that has been doing it is First Gear. So let's talk that real quickly. All right, one more brand. Well, no, not one more brand, but the other significant brand. Hot Wheels Elite 6.4, Tomica Limited Vintage, Mini GT, and this is the other one that I really like, and I'm going to show you a couple of others that are really doing some good stuff too in a second. But First Gear. DCP by First Gear. Many of you are familiar with this brand. Some more expensive trucks for sure, but super, super detailed, amazing display vehicles. Also cool to, they're functional too. They fall very much in line with these other brands. And to be honest, I think a lot of you who have collected First Gear for a long time would say, no, this is the brand. And I don't disagree at all. And as a matter of fact, what Tomica Luna Vintage is doing with their stuff in Japan, I would say First Gear is really doing here. But Mini GT's, I can go back and forth on how cool all of this stuff is. But First Gear has been doing it for a very, very long time. What I love about First Gear, outside of their what they do with these trucks, in terms of like the execution of these castings, is the wild variety. Almost, Kenworth, Peterbilt. They go on and on. I think that International, they do a ton of current and vintage cabs and current and vintage trailers, and they do like the Fallen Flag series, our old hauling companies that are no longer. So there's a vintage vibe here that is fantastic, and then they do a lot of very current trucks that you see on the highways here in the United States, and so I love their approach. They're local, they're U.S. based, and I've enjoyed getting to know this brand. I'm pulling out this truck. I've got one other one that I'll show you. This is how their stuff is packaged. Very much open road themed, which I like a lot. See if I can get this one open. I've showcased this truck before, and I can do it, and I probably will do a full First Gear showcase. I showcased a hay truck that they just did, released in 2024. All right, you want a metal trailer? You got it. Here's the details. You get spare tire. You get a lot of details in the chassis, of course, proper axles. Let me show you the interior here of the trailer. Also super detailed. It just doesn't, like, right? Every time you go, oh, I like this, then I show you another one. You're like, oh, wait, I like that. There's your clank. Really, really beautifully done. I love the styling of this trailer. And then check out the cab here. I believe, and I'll get the official name here on this one. This is the, right here, 1/64 scale Peterbilt 359 with a 63 foot mid-roof sleeper, 63 inch, right? And the tandem axle trailer. So this one has the sleeper, of course, which is fantastic. All right, check this out. Total stylized truck. I mean, I think this is based on a real truck. This one, they actually show the engine. So this has a moving part, which is a detail that First Gear has that the others don't. So that's really cool. Obviously, highly detailed chassis. You get the wiring in the back. You get, of course, the double axle on this one. They'll go proper if it's two axles or single axle. They'll do it properly. This one has. I just love the detailing on this one. And then, of course, when you put it together, you get a stunner of a rig. I mean, look at this thing. Also to scale. Rolls beautifully. I mean, come on. You know, this is one of the first times I've actually had all of the rigs out that of these brands, like Tomica Luna Vintage with Mini GT, with First Gear, and of course the Hot Wheels off to the side. I mean, look at this. Look at this. There's your Hot Wheels. I've got a First Gear in the background I haven't shown you yet. But like the racing inspired UPS realism, really nice trailers that Mini GT does. Great brand to start. Tomica Luna Vintage, ultra realistic as well. Tons of cool details, tons of cool branding. First Gear with the retro rigs, the American rigs, the Peterbilt cabs, like all that stuff. The fire truck, you know, the buses. You can keep going. All right, now so I want to show you this. This is I didn't even have it in the package because it took me a while to put together. Some of these do, you know, have these additional pieces you can add. I just want to show this off. This is a First Gear. This is a first gear beam truck. And look how long this thing is. If you've ever encountered one of these on the freeway or the highway, it's a sight to behold, right? The beam is so large that the trailer portion isn't even attached to the cab. And obviously the beam serves as the connector between the two. This actually, I think I did a video on this and put all of this together. Like, you have to put the chains together. Maybe I did a short on this one. Putting the chains together. You see this is attached to the beam. The beam is metal. Here, let me make sure this goes back in. But the cab itself, you get a Peterbilt again with the opening part. I can try and show the, and then even here, if I kind of pull this out of the screen, because of the length of this, obviously realistically there has to be a turning element on these, and look, it has it. I can even pick this up. Look at that. It adjusts as it would, like going over small hills and things, and then adjusts this way. To quote Gladiator, "Are you not entertained?" I sure am. These are just amazing, amazing rigs. That's first gear, and that's not even scratching the surface. The garbage trucks that they do, the haulers, the utility trucks, I mean, the hay trucks, the tanker trucks, they do so many of them. And yeah, they're $100+. Some of them go even higher than that. You got to pay for them. But oh my gosh, if you have the space to showcase these, they are certainly worth it. All right, a couple of the brands I'd cover very quickly. IXO's been doing some interesting stuff, and they've sent me a couple, and their cabs, they don't do, I don't know if they do any trailers in 1/64 scale. They don't do a ton in 1/64 scale. I wanted to show this one. This is a Kenworth Bullnose, a 1950 Kenworth. So they do some really cool vintage trucks that I wanted to show off. I'm not even going to take this one out. I just wanted to show it, and I'll probably do some other features on these here in the future. Maybe there are some trailers I could add to this one. I never know where these videos are going to go. But check this stuff out. The IXO are cool, but let's stay focused on these amazing haulers. The beam truck, the Mini GT haulers. So many cool features. Brands just kind of going to town. Of course, Hot Wheels doing a nice job getting into this mix. It's really, really neat to see what these brands are bringing to the table. You guys tell me what you think. Do you collect these? Do you want to collect them? Are they worth the price? I think they are. Buying a ton of them might be tough for space and for money, but they are pretty phenomenal. I would check out all of these brands. And if you get some of these, if you do buy some of these, let me know. Thanks, everybody. And thanks to these brands for creating such fantastic stuff. Thanks, everybody. Bye.